Right, here's the thing. We'll go to Man now. Man is actually a totally self-indulgent, almost selfish point that a lot of people aren't going to agree with. Bit redundant to even say that there, isn't it, Maui Snake? You know, just fucking par for the course. So here we go. I don't give a fuck, Valdir. My good point is this. My boy MSL's getting a team again. Now, I won't confirm or deny whether the rumours are correct that he's joining Fnatic. It certainly looks like it, doesn't it, fans? All I'm going to say is this. Like, mate, I said this on Twitter. I don't think I've ever seen an in-game leader, my caveat is since existence retired, that has the resume that MSL does, that gets treated like they're a moron. Like they can't even be on any tier 1 team. I'm not saying put him on Astralis tomorrow, but the idea he can't be in a team that could be top 10 or top 50, what? Like, because here's the other thing, and this is actually a point I want to make now for anyone who's watching, is one of the problems that MSL has had is he is a massive victim of like Reddit narratives where people hear a narrative and it might even be accurate at the time, like this one is. It's just that they keep the same narrative. It's a problem people on Reddit have in general, you notice, Maui Snake. If they ever judge people, if they don't like someone, if you ever did something wrong 7 years ago, you're that person now. You can never change. But if they like you, you could fucking rob a bank 2 weeks ago and they go, oh, he's changed, he's improved and he said he's sorry. So the problem with MSL basically is this. Because he has the stereotype, he is the prototypical execute playbook in-game leader. He only wants to run set executes on this timing and with these players and these. As a result, right, everyone thinks that doesn't even exist in the modern. By the way, it still does. Obviously it does. Astralis still did those at times. Gambit still does those. Like, grow the fuck up. Obviously those exist. But I agree. You can't necessarily do that every round in the modern day. And in fact, I'll say a bigger deal than that is a lot of top pros don't want to play that way. That's the bigger deal to me. They want to have a lot more agency, freewheeling style. They want to just frag out. Sometimes they don't want to hold a position because the timing says that they want to go around the corner and try and take a fight with the guy. So part of the problem, I think, is this. Fans, as a result, put no hype around him. And let's be real. There are orgs that actually do go by like Reddit hype and stuff like that. They want to know who the community thinks is good. And then for pro players, a mixture of the fact that they think he's like trying to be a drill sergeant. And I'm sorry, this is where MSL actually has a problem. The problem he has is he didn't win like majors and stuff. If he'd have won majors, people would buy into that. They'd go, oh, it's like playing for the Patriots or so, or Manchester United. Yeah, I'll do whatever the boss says. I'll win if I do that. Problem he has is he doesn't have quite that resume. But mate, just go and look how many trophies this guy has won. I'm talking he's won tier 1 trophies. Like this guy and a lot of like top place, mate. It's actually ridiculous, like this guy's resume, and with all levels of talent and how. So to me, I'm just glad he actually has a team again. Because when I look at all these big names that aren't getting teams and look like they're exiting or even worse, going to Valorant, I'm just glad that someone like this, who by the way is still super motivated to be in the scene. That's why you see him making all this YouTube content. And he's told me basically, and I've watched some of the YouTube videos. It seems plausible. He's told me that he has put effort in the last few years to become someone who can mid-round, who can play a bit looser, who doesn't have to, everything doesn't have to be what he wants. Basically, he's sort of sending the message to pro players. He's ready to be the new MSL, as it were.
If he's willing to up his game like that, I always remember that a lot of the good MSL rounds were about kind of just like procedurally getting map control and then converting it once he has it. And it just looked really clean cut. And if he's able to, loosen it up a little bit, it's not like he has to completely shift his fundamental approach to the game. He just needs to include a couple more kind of tempo changes, quicker plays, I'd say, that are just like a little more free flowing, then learn a mid-round. But the thing is that mid-rounding does take more experience in terms of like the way he wanted to play with everything kind of working in his structure and then having a flow chart based off of what worked and didn't work as the round is progressing versus letting your players take initiative that they want to take. That's, I think, going to be the hardest thing for him. But like, I mean, he has been like putting out a ton of content. And if he's putting that kind of effort into studying the game even more, learning more kind of about the macro in terms of watch just default heavy teams and learning how they play, then I think it could be a great fit.
Now, Valdir has one of my favourite quotes of all time about MSL, and because I am so self-indulgent, it was on one of my shows, it was on Counterpoints, where I actually asked him, I just said basically something similar to that, like, a lot of people don't rate MSL, they don't think he's that good, and Valdir said, because at the time he'd been an in-game leader himself in North afterwards, he basically said, when I played in MSL's North, I didn't actually know we had a system until I became the in-game leader, and then I realised, fuck yeah, like, there was a whole system here, like, they were doing some stuff here that I didn't necessarily think about. What do you think about this situation, Valdir?
I think it's a pretty complicated situation to start off. I think I want to go back to your initial point and just point out to people that if you actually look at MSL's career, and this is something I've thought about myself as well, is that a lot of Danish players actually had some of their biggest, if not the biggest results playing with MSL.
Yep.
You just have to keep that in mind, and like it's not to point any fingers towards my current team or previous teams, but just like, for example, my biggest career achievements came with him as well. I know like some of Config's biggest achievements came with MSL as well. Obviously, Magis went to Astralis and won a shit ton of tournaments there, but he also had some big achievements there. AC, Kirby, like a lot of people had some of the biggest achievements with him. And I think people just tend to forget that because, like, I think what maybe fucked MSL over a little bit was that he came back a second time after he got kicked to this broken North team.
Yeah.
Where I just think, like, everything was so messed up there. And you also have to look at, okay, what kind of players did he have? And since they didn't achieve anything significant results-wise, then fans might be results-orientated and say, oh, he's not a good in-game leader anymore. But in my opinion, he absolutely can be a top-tier in-game leader if he gets the right players and the right team. And I just think it's a unfortunate situation where he's kind of maybe been left out in the cold a little bit. People have maybe forgotten about him. Plus, with this whole COVID situation, there is not a lot of investments going into Counter-Strike at the moment, sadly. So I think it's like a combination of all those factors that has left him without a team. But I think he absolutely can be on a top 10 level team still. And I think he just needs the players. And I know he's still fully motivated, as you mentioned previously. So I think it's a lot of unfortunate events that led to him being stuck without a team for such a long period of time. But I just want to remind people that there is actually a lot of people who still, I think, personally believe in him and believe that he can be a top tier in-game leader. He just, for some reason, hasn't got the right offer yet, and I think it's a matter of timing as well.
I think one last thing I'll add is that I believe in him as a leader. I just don't think I believe in him as a primary opper. That's my one. I mean,
that's fair enough.
I can agree with that fully, and I think he knows himself. But I think you also have to realize, at least that's what he told me directly, is he only wants to be a primary opper if he's on a team where there is no better option available. So let's say he comes to a team where there is, I don't know, like A-Core, I don't know, could be some other really good opper. Then he'll just like fully transition back to a rifle role again and just be like a normal in-game leader. So I don't think it's an issue for him. I just feel like his point was that if he has a team where there is no obvious like good primary AWPer, then he can make more impact himself by being an AWP because he can like play smart and base the game around him rather than just being a rifle running first and dying every round. Like that was kind of his thought process, I think, and then obviously, maybe it didn't turn out great, but I don't know, like he still won a tier 1 tournament doing that. And that kind of goes back to my point where I feel it's really disingenuous judging in-game leaders purely on results. Like, in my opinion, you got to look on what kind of team they have to work with. Like, a lot of these in-game leaders, if you gave them a different team with way worse players, they wouldn't have the results they have. And then people might see them in a completely different lighting, so...
Sure.
I think that's a super important point, at least, to bring up.
Yeah. By the way, that even here's the thing. That's an example of where MSL actually also, I think, has had like differences of opinion with people, because I actually think theoretically what you're saying there makes perfect sense. Like, obviously you can play positionally with the AWP, but if you're the in-game leader, you could even use it to like lock an area off, scout some information, or there's things you can do with it that aren't just about having a highlight round. The problem with that is though, like it ignores the second and third order effects of the AWP, which is like you have to save the AWP if it's available, you have to fucking like take certain peaks, otherwise you're not using it properly. It's a super expensive gun. Like there's a lot of downsides to it as well. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.